Hi, Sam. So a quick answer to your question. As you can see on the screen, this is what the rapture is. The rapture is, the word comes from the Greek to Latin translation, right? It comes from the Greek word harpazo, as you see on the screen. It appears in passages like 1 Thessalonians 4:17, where believers are said to be caught up to meet the Lord. When the Bible was translated into Latin, the Vulgate, the Greek word harpazo was translated as rapiemur, from the Latin verb rapere, which means to seize or to snatch. This is where the English word rapture originates. So the reason that we use it is to sum up an event with one word and to be able to describe it easily using one word instead of just describing the entire event every time we want to discuss it. Scriptural basis for the word rapture is used to encapsulate the idea of believers being caught up or snatched away as described in 1 Thessalonians 4:16 through 17 and 1 Corinthians chapter 15 verses 51 through 52. These passages speak of a future event where the faithful are taken up to meet the Lord. Okay, so this is why we use the word rapture, because of not translation but transliteration from one language to another. It's not just translating it. It has to be transliterated because languages are written differently. So this is where we get the word rapture from. It comes from harpazo, which was the word used when this was all written. It's just our way of saying harpazo, except for the fact that we don't speak Greek. I have zero intention of being harsh towards you. I don't think you're really angry with me. I think that, well, we're going to be friends. Now for the next thing, it doesn't make sense. Who does Antichrist war with or behead if there's a rapture? You really need to try harder. Okay, look, got you. I understand that. So remember whenever I was reading Revelations chapter 6 and I was just running through this stuff real quick to get to a whole nother situation. Like I said, I was not focused on Antichrist or any of that. I just needed to do some quick teachings to tell who he was so I could get into some other teachings. Okay, so if you'll recognize in chapter 6, they're breaking the 6 seals, right? When this is happening, remember we pointed out that God protects his children, right? Everybody with the seal of God is under protection. We're okay, right? Okay. Follow me. Just bear with me. Chapter 7, they are sealing the 144,000. Chapter 8, they're about to blow the trumpets. Keep in mind, while the seals are being broken, the children of God are safe. While the trumpets are being blown, chapter 7, the 7 trumpets, chapter 8, the 7 trumpets, the children of God are already sealed and covered, protected, living, and safe. All the while, Antichrist has not shown his face just yet. Chapter 9, the angel came down from heaven, or a star fell from heaven to the earth, and he had the key to the bottomless pit. Chapter 9, verse 4 says, "It was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing nor any tree, but only those men which did not have the seal of God on their forehead." Now there's folks that are losing their lives in that chapter, but it's not the ones that are sealed by God. Chapter 10, he gets the little book that he has to eat. Ugh. Remember, he told him to take the book and eat it, and it was sweet to taste and it was bitter in his tummy. That was chapter 10. Chapter 11, everybody is still alive. All of God's sealed children, and they are giving instructions on building the temple. In 11 verse 3, that's where the 2 witnesses show up on the scene. These 2 witnesses get to prophesy 1,203 days. That's 1,260 days. or years. In verse 7 of the same chapter, chapter 11, is whenever the Antichrist, or, the monster, comes out of the bottomless pit and, wait, did I say, yeah, verse 7. He ascends out of the bottomless pit, makes war against them, and overcomes them, and kills them. Then they lay dead in the street for 3 days. In verse 11, the Spirit of God, the Spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood up on their feet, and great fear fell on everybody around. Verse 12, they heard a great voice from heaven saying to them, "Come up hither." And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. This is based on the assumption that people can't just fly. This is also based on the assumption that ghosts aren't real. Also based on the assumption that we have the power to just do what we want once we die, or once God breathes life into our bodies. So if we're going to let Scripture interpret Scripture, right? And we now know that rapture is a real thing. It's a harpazo, which is the catching away, the snatching up, like violently grabbing you up from where you are. This is a rapture. They are raptured up into heaven by God's command, right? So this is why we say this. It's not to make up new false doctrine or mislead people. This actually isn't just for us. This is for the Jews. The Jews need to know these things, and it actually speaks to them much more strongly than it'll speak to Christians, and let me show you why. Back in the Old Testament, in Isaiah chapter 26, verses 19 through 21, it talks about some imminent stuff happening, right? It talks about resurrection, to sum it up, and protection during a time of divine indignation, which you could see as a precursor to the rapture and tribulation concepts. This is important. Then we have Daniel chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. This is where Daniel's prophecy describes a time of unparalleled terrible trouble, often associated with tribulation, and the resurrection of the dead, aligning with eschatological themes. Also in Old Testament, good old Zephaniah, chapter 2, verse 3. This encourages people to seek the Lord in righteousness so that they can be hidden during the day of the Lord's anger, which some interpret as reference to being protected during tribulation. This is fact. The reason this is so late is because I had to finish work and come home and pull the research for you appropriately for exactly what you're saying, and then get it to you. So my apologies. And just like I quoted before, Joel chapter 2, verses 30 through 32, Joel's prophecy here speaks of cosmic signs and deliverance for those who call on the Lord, often associated with the end times events. Let me tell you, biblically, how important it is that Old Testament, right, confirms the truth of the New Testament. Scripture confirms Scripture. It must. If you read Isaiah 53, it's extremely powerful. Isaiah 53 confirms so many New Testament scriptures. It confirms 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 24, Matthew chapter 8, verses 16 through 17, Acts chapter 8, verses 32 through 35, John chapter 12, verse 38, Romans chapter 10, verse 16. Okay, if you don't know what Isaiah chapter 53 is talking about, this is something that the Jews don't like to read. This is the scripture about the suffering servant. It is the full description of Christ on the cross, right? And every New Testament scripture that I listed, all the details of Isaiah 53 are right there in that. So important. Go to the next video. There has to be a second video. I'm not done.